Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our next Draft League tier list video. Today we're going to be talking about the Steel typing, one of the most important types in Draft League, but honestly, a really hot commodity here in the Paldea region. There's a lot of really good Steel types, but not a lot of Steel types. So today we're going to be talking about which ones I think are the best and give you the best value. If you guys do enjoy today's tier list video, so I keep forgetting what kind it is, be sure to drop a like on the video as well as subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 3,000 subs. I appreciate a lot if you help me out along that journey. Also, if you want to consider becoming a channel member, there's a little join button down below next to the sub button. It has a lot of really cool perks like getting draft league help or private videos, cool emotes, nice little badge next to your name to rep your stuff. And yeah, I'd appreciate a ton. It really helps me out. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into it. Now, like I mentioned, there's only 20 on this list, and that is even with me putting 2 Pokemon that I think should be banned on this list. So there's really not much to choose from when it comes to your Steel type. You're really going to be stuck with a shitter, or just not a Steel type in general, in most Paldea Dex leagues right now, even post-home. This is including post-home months. But we're going to kind of go over on which ones I think are better, and honestly, the top end is really far away from the bottom end. And speaking of the bottom end, we're going to go ahead and talk about Alolan Dougie right here. This thing just, it doesn't offer much to your team, man. I mean, solid feature, I guess, and fast rocker. His dual stats can be cool, and I've seen it do well with, like, you know, like Sand Force sets under Sand teams and things like that. But realistically, it's just not worth it as your Steel type specifically. It doesn't actually have resistance. It has an immunity and poison, and that's it. Everything else is 2-hit KOing or OHKOing it. So I'm really not a big Alolan Dougie guy. I've never been a big Alolan Dougie guy, and I think it's going to stay down here in D tier. Next up, we have Magneton, and we'll jump around and get Magnezone next. Magneton's going to go here in C tier for me personally. Not the biggest Magneton guy in the world. The one advantage that it has over Magnezone is, one, the Eviolite, which isn't super big and marginal just because of that quad weakness to ground, and it's kind of mediocre bulk in general, even with the Eviolite. But I think the real advantage that it has is that higher speed tier, making Scarf sets really good on Magnet Pulse sets. And if we were in a metagame where there was more Steel types, maybe I would value Magneton a little bit more. But honestly, the fact that, like, the only thing that you objectively trap in this is, like, you can trap probably Fortress, but even then, if it's healthy enough to take a Thunderbolt, you just die to EQ. You can trap Corvo Knight if it's not Shed Shell. That's it. Now, like, weakened Steel types for sure. With, like, Specs T-Bolts, you can kind of run through. But realistically, there's not much that you're trapping. So that niche is kind of gone. And it's not a really good defensive Steel. It doesn't get Stealth Rock as a Steel type, which is a big, big downfall for it. So I'm personally going to have it down here pretty darn low. Okay, next up we have Fortress. I'm going to go ahead and put Fortress currently in A tier, which is really interesting because I'm actually not a big Fortress fan. Fun fact. I know I just used in the BBR, and it did pleasantly surprise me there, which is part of the reason why it's up here. Is much better than I gave it credit for. I think the aspect of the Hazard Stack plus Rapid Spin is really, really clutch this gen because there's not a lot of removal, so one being able to set Stealth Rock hazards, or Stealth Rock spikes and T-spikes up, as well as Rapid Spin away is incredibly valuable. It does get Volt Switch for momentum, so it's not stuck in on things that just absolutely massacre it. Gyro Ball and Body Pressure is pretty good, just neutral coverage against most things. And it can even boom if you need it to boom. I think when Custap Berry comes back, that's another big boost to Fortress viability. So you can get off that Custap Explosion, that Custap second layer spikes, or those Custap Rocks, whatever it might be. Even that Custap Spin can be really, really clutch in most regards. So I think that Fortress is actually a really good Steel type in this gen because there is not many really good Steel types in this gen, so I'm gonna go ahead and put an A tier here. Alrighty, next up we have Scizor. I'm gonna go ahead and put Scizor for now at the top of A tier. It may move up to S tier because I do think that Scizor is very, very, very good, and it is at the very least top of A tier. It might bump into S tier depending on how I'm feeling and how we kind of go through this tier list. I honestly think, you know, it's gonna stay A tier. It's gonna stay A tier. It's gonna stay A tier. I think it's great, though. Now, it did lose access to Roost, which is huge. Now, if the home move tutors work the way that we think they might, in the sense that they let you bring in moves that these Pokemon learned in Pokemon Legends Arceus, BDSP, and Sword and Shield. It will get Roost back because it gets Roost in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And if that's the case, it is definitely an S tier Steel type and one of the best. I think that's the one thing holding Scizor back right now is its loss of access to Roost and reliable recovery. But regardless, outside of that, Swords Dance variants are incredible with Bullet Punch and Superpower, U-Turn, Quick Attack, Trailblaze is another cool aspect of it, Aerial Ace. Plenty of coverage in that regards, right? Technician is very, very strong. Did I say Superpower? If I did, I meant Close Combat. It obviously U-turns around, grabs great momentum. It's a really reliable defogger as well. I wish it also still had knockoff. I think that's a pretty tough one, but not the end of the world. And again, just very, very solid Pokemon. Great pivot, great typing defensively in a lot of instances too. Only having that weakness to fire is really, really valuable. So I'm definitely a big, big Scizor guy. Next up, we have our Bronzong. I'm going to go ahead and put Bronzong and Beats here. I'm a big Bronzong stan, though. Again, as reliable as Rockers come. It really is so good at getting that job done. It can even throw out some, pretty strong future sights. Iron Defense Body Press sets are pretty cool. It can Calm Mind. It can Iron Defense. It can Double Dance if you really want it to. Rest Talk variants. I've even run AV Bronzong. It's a good success. It's nothing flashy. Bronzong isn't going to do anything to blow your socks off outside of maybe 1 out of 30 matchups. But it is going to be very, very good at its job. It's going to be incredibly reliable, and that is what you want out of your Steel type, personally, in my opinion. Next up, we have Lucario. Go ahead and put Lucario in B tier here. This might be a little bit interesting to some of you, because I know a lot of people really love Lucario with Terra, like Terra Normal sets, Terra Steel sets, Terra Fighting sets, Terra Fire maybe, something like that. Even Terra Ground. It can be pretty cool. It can Nasty Plot and Swords Dance. I've used Lucario before, and I've liked it. It's definitely been fun, but I don't know if I would call it objectively good. I think the biggest issue with Lucario is its speed tier, and even at +2, those extreme speeds there, it's not coming off like a banded D90 speed, you know what I mean? And there's definitely counterplay around it, and it's still weak to fighting a similar typing that it was already weak to with normal typing, so it still finds those tough instances to set up where something like D-Knight, when it Terra Normals, it finds those instances to set up because it loses all of its prior weaknesses and gains one new one. And if that one new one is clicked and it doesn't Terra, then it takes no damage. So a little bit more mind games and a little bit more setup opportunities. Also, obviously, multi-scale as well gives more setup opportunities even than that. So I think Lucario is good. I think it has a good ceiling. I think Mephisto used it well in BBR this most recent season. But I'm not sold on it. I'm really not sold on it. I don't think I would personally draft it as the Terra Captain in this generation. Next up is Magneton. It's going to go in B tier. Similar reasons as Magneton, but it's a little bit better defensively, in my opinion. A little bit more consistent in that regard. And it's obviously just a little bit stronger. But again, trapping Steel types isn't as valuable as Gen because there isn't as many. And the ones that are here aren't really trapped very well. You know what I mean? You could trap like Tinkaton again in Fortress. And I was going to say Revamp, but it could just Parting Shot out. So that's about it. Okay, next up we finally have our first S tier Steel type in Heatran. Good old Heatran. That's old reliable, baby. This Pokemon, you want to talk about something that just gets up rocks, spreads burns with Lava Plumes or Will-O-Wisp. Traps things with Magma Storm, is a great stall breaker with Magma Storm, Taunt, Earth Power. It's incredible Pokemon. It did lose access to like those Scarf and Spec sets that would run Eruption, but it's still good as a Scarfer in the Spec spawn. It just can't click the Brain Dead, Broken, Eruption, and kill everything. I think Terra Heatran is also really interesting, whether it just be Terra Fire to really have incredibly strong Lava Plumes, Flamethrowers, and Magma Storms, or like Terra Water sets, even Terra Grass sets to resist ground, Terra Flying to get out of the way of them completely while shedding your fighting typing. There's a lot of cool defensive applications for Heatran with Terra that I think are pretty underexplored right now. Even Terra Fairy Heatran seems super, super nasty. Just having that natural defensive typing. I know John used Terra Heatran really well in his most recent Trick House season, I think it was. So it's a Pokemon I actually really want to try with Terra. I have it just as like a regular Pokemon in the league right now. And obviously I love it. Heatran's one of my favorite Pokemon to draft ever, so I'm big on it. Okay, next up we have Hisuian. That's the next one. We have Bisharp here. I'm going to put Bisharp in C tier. It did get a little bit of a buff this generation, having access to Eviolite, which does give it like more setup opportunities or more rocking opportunities on rock sets, but it's still slow. It's still pretty frail. It has a pretty bad defensive typing. I'm not super big on Bisharp. I think it's definitely better than Magneton. Maybe low B, but high C. it at least makes it draftable this generation for me personally. Next up, we have Suing Gudra. Put it near the top of B, just because I'm not 100% sure on it yet. I think it's going to be better than regular Gudra, but I'm also not the biggest regular Gudra fan, so I don't know how much that means just yet. It's a steel type without rocks, which is a big negative for me personally. The other ones in this is being, I believe, Lucario, Scizor, Gudra, Magneton, Magnezone. I'm thinking of the ones that don't get rocks right now, but it's a big downside, but it does have like Iron Defense Body Press sets. It has incredible special coverage. It can drag and tail things around. I think rest sets are going to be great. And Shell Armor is honestly a really slept on ability in draft. Not being able to be crit can make this thing incredibly obnoxious for a lot of teams to deal with. And it's just incredibly bulky and incredibly obnoxious. Okay, here's our first banned Pokemon. And this is a Pokemon I'm going to personally go ahead and put up here in S tier. Now, I would like to preface this with I only have it on here because I know there are people out there that think Magearna maybe can be allowed in Draft League. No, it can't. Do not allow this monster in a counter team format ever. Especially in a format where maybe you're going to allow it to Terra. Now, I don't know why you allow it to Terra, but you also don't know why you would allow it in your league in general. So, don't allow Magearna. Fun fact, I'm one of the reasons that it's not being allowed next season of BBR. Daniel wanted to allow it, and I said no. Even if I have first pick, I am not dishonest enough to allow broken Magearna to be in the game. Okay, next up we have a Pokemon that I might get a little bit of flack for putting it in A instead of S, is Corvo Knight. Now, I understand Corvo Knight's allure. I think it's a great Pokemon. It's a great defogger. Great pivot with U-turn. Pressure is great for stalling out PP. Yada, yada, yada. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I think it can be a little bit passive and a little bit exploitable. And the Roost nerf really hurt it with those pressure sets trying to stall you out. Now, it can do like cool bulk up sets and power trip and body press and all this cool stuff. And again, it's an incredibly reliable defogger and U-turn pivot. I'm just personally not super big on the Pokemon because of its one-dimensionality. It being one-dimensional is how I'm going to put that. I'm not a big fan of it because of that reason, and the fact that that one-dimensionality is like it being kind of passive and things like that. Just a passive wall that comes in U-turns. Passive might not be the best word. Weak might be the better word. So we're gonna say weak. Okay. Next up we have Caparajah. I'm actually gonna put Caparajah at the top of C tier right now. I like Caparajah. Really, really sick mod, honestly. Whether it be rocking sets with a resist berry or assault vest variants with either sheer force or heavy metal, this Pokemon's very slept on for its for its point value. I think it's actually a really viable steal. I know a lot of people really hate Asian Raj, but I think he's awesome. I also think he has a super cool design. One of my favorite Galarmons, so he's gonna get to go up here in C tier. Not anything to do with the design, but I feel like I should mention it because I feel like not a lot of people really like Caparajah, and I like Caparajah a lot. Okay, next up is Zombicy. This one's a little bit more debatable on allow or not allow. Now, it was nerfed in both ability and base set total. Now, I don't remember the exact BST total, but it was nerfed pretty considerably. And its ability was nerfed in the sense that Dauntless Shield only activates once. So the first time you switch in, you get a defense boost. Now, because of that, you'd think, okay, well, some leagues allowed Zoma last gen. Well, now that it's worse, we should always allow it, right? I don't know. I'm in the train where I think it actually got buffed in getting access to Body Press. This thing with Iron Defense Body Press sets is borderline unkillable on Spadef variants. You can't Toxic it. Unless you have a Ghost, you're just going to get Body Press through. And if you're Spadef enough on this thing, and it has good Spadef, special attackers aren't going to break it through it easy either. And then you just +3 or plus 5 or 6 Body Press them, and then they die. Like, there's no resist to that move. So, plus its offensive prowess, potentially being very good offensively. I'm not a big fan of Zama, I'll be honest. I'm not a big fan of it. Them giving it Body Press made it borderline broken for me, personally. So, I wouldn't allow it in the league right now, at least. Maybe I need to see more of it. But I know that BBR does have it banned this upcoming season. Next up is Berserker. D tier Pokemon. It's going to go above Alolan Dougie because it at least has some defensive application with like AV sets, but can't rock. Pretty mediocre coverage. Can be very strong, but it's also very slow and not the bulkiest steel in the world. So, next up we have Revamp. Revamp's going to be our last D tier Pokemon. It's actually going to go below Alolan Dougie. This Pokemon has like such wasted potential. There's so many moves that it can get, like high horsepower, wild charge, and U-turn that just didn't get despite being the car Pokemon. which is very stupid to me. Its BST is pretty underwhelming though, unfortunately, and like I said, its move pool is very underwhelming, so that's where we're gonna put it for now. Next up, we have Goldango. I'm going to go ahead and put a Goldango in S tier. This thing, as just like a facilitator of offense, is insane. Blocking any type of hazard removal that ever wants to come besides Defog Hawlucha, which can't touch you anyways, is insanely obnoxious. Insanely obnoxious, whether it be Scarf, Specs, Nasty Plot, Resist Berry, Recover Sets, things like that. This Pokemon's a big menace offensively with its incredible Ghost Steel typing, as proven evident by Age Slash and Generations Past. Also being incredibly strong, incredibly annoying to switch into, and kill in one hit. So, Goldango is pretty darn good. Glamor is really good with Goldango, though. I guess is kind of maybe where my mind was. Next up, we have Iron Treads. I'm actually going to put Iron Treads above the Goldango. I think this thing's roll compression it offers and how good it can be offensively and defensively is like unmatched. Boost energy sets, boost energy speed, or even attack are very, very good and very, very strong. Steel plus ground is incredible stab combination, as evident with Extra Drill, with its fighting coverage and body press and rock slide and things like that it can rock out with. It's a great rapid spinner. It sets up rocks. It can knock off. It can be offensive, defensive, a little bit in the middle, depending on what you want. It really is a good Pokemon. I'm a big Iron Treads believer, and I want to try it myself because I've gotten put down by like Iron Defense sets. And just even regular offensive treads can go crazy. It gets extra wild charge and volt switch for momentum too, and ice spinner, and it has great coverage. Great Pokemon, incredible Pokemon. Next up, we have Tinkaton. Tinkaton's gonna go. Oh, that's Kingambit. Tinkaton's gonna go in the bottom of B tier solely because of its typing and like the little utility that it offers. I think. Nah, I'm putting it at the top of C tier. I don't like Tinkaton. I'm gonna be honest. Now its typing is incredible. It can always live one. Good, reliable rocker. Knocks things off, Thunder Waves them. Its stat spread is so underwhelming though, and its offensive move pool is so underwhelming that it just makes me so mad. I'm not going to talk about Tinkaton anymore. I don't like it in draft, and that's how it's going to stay. Then lastly, we have Kingambit. I'm going to put it here at the top of A. I actually didn't think I would like Kingambit that much for a lot of the reasons I kind of talked about with Bisharp, and it's like being very slow, if not slower, and being so bulky, but with such a shitty defensive typing. But really, one, if you tear a Kingambit, it becomes the most Mickey Pokemon of all time and can kind of just take home any game you wanted to take home. But two, it becomes really incredible defensively with those stats. It can set up rocks, it can sucker punch through teams and Swords Dance. There's two incredible abilities in Supreme Overlord and Defiant. Like, this Pokemon is really good and not to be trifled with. I'm a big Kingambino guy. I think he's super awesome. But yeah, that's basically going to be the tier list. Let me know what you guys think of our steel type tier list in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite steel type is down there as well. Big shout outs to this month's channel members in Goosefart, Olivia Sama, Zeke, and D Double. Love y'all, appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. If you want to become a member, again, down below. And yeah, that being said, I'll see you guys on Tuesday with another video. Later.